afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock, so you're probably ready for a little bit of relaxation and just enjoy the conversation. I'm joined by wonderful executive coach Peter Black.
Hi, Jane, and good to be with you in 2022, a year that hopefully will be a bit more interesting than the last two.
Oh, I don't know. It was plenty interesting enough for me in 2020 to 2021. Let's hope it's a peaceful, happy and healthy one. But Happy New Year to you and Happy New Year to everybody. And we're here to talk about whether you should resign or realign your career in 2022, the great resignation, and also what to expect for yourself in your career moving forward. So this is going to be jam-packed full of value for anyone who's considering what to do in their careers. But before we begin, did you have a good Christmas, Peter?
I had a great Christmas, COVID notwithstanding, and I think that's just become part of the norm. I did a lot of connection in a different way, a lot of catch up, caught up on a lot of binge watching, read some real books instead of Kindle books, and stayed safe, although I did have to do an isolation. I was a close contact, so just situation normal as for many people. How about you, Jane?
We were very, very lucky because we were trying to stay COVID free so we could have a family Christmas. So I ended up with 11 adults and 4 children in our garden for Christmas lunch. It was fantastic. But unfortunately, although nobody had COVID, one baby had hand, foot and mouth, and just very, very mildly. But so we had to have him in the adjoining garden. And we did a tag team of babysitting him. But at the end, when he fell asleep, we were able to wheel him in the pushchair in the garden, and then we were all together. So it was an interesting Christmas, but lovely to have lots of family time. So
and probably demonstrating agility and flexibility, which is two characteristics that we all need in these what they're calling the VUCA times, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and whether that's personal or whether it's for our careers.
Oh, I know. And you know what? I was really thinking, how can I do this? What are we going to do? Because we don't want the other kids to get hand, foot and mouth. And anyway, we ended up doing it very safely. But my key word for the year, Peter, is flexibility, because there's been so much change, as you said, in every aspect of our lives, careers, personal health, etc. So if we stay really flexible with an open mind and think, oh, how can I adapt myself to make the best of this situation? That's probably a really good mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. What did you reflect on about 2021 and what you took out of it?
Working from home? Well, actually, when it comes to work from home, for me, I transitioned my business into predominantly online and virtual coaching about 5 years ago. So when COVID hit, it wasn't really that different for me. It's just that all of my face-to-face corporate workshops, they were postponed, or I had to recreate them into webinar format. So actually, all of my face-to-face workshops now are also webinars. So I can the corporate training, as well as, through webinar, as well as the one-on-one coaching. But working from home, almost all of my clients were working from home all the time, unless they physically had to be face-to-face due to the type of work that they had. But most people actually enjoyed working from home, and they've been quite adaptable. And now everyone's an expert on Zoom or Microsoft Teams. What about you?
I think, in the same vein, the concern that I have is the ongoing burnout and well-being. I think the fact that many people have not been able to have a break, even weekend breaks, let alone annual leave breaks, and just burnout, whether it's our really hardworking healthcare workers who I really feel sorry for, or whether it's, corporate or other workers who've not had the time to recharge. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges in 2022, being able to take back control of our time and our energy management to ensure that we get ourselves through in, uncertain times. So that was probably one of the key takeaways for me was we do need to manage energy burnout, and social connections was probably the other one. That was where I think we started to realise the importance. We are social animals. We do need to connect with people. Thank goodness for things like Zoom and WhatsApp to be able to connect and have a bit of banter, have a bit of fun, notwithstanding we might not have been able to see people in person.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I'd like to know what our listeners or viewers or followers think as well. So what have you done in order to maintain your positivity, your mental health, your sanity during the lockdowns and the snap lockdowns that come every once in a while? And if you've got some really good strategies, do share and pop it into the chat box. And throughout this session, we'll answer any comments or questions that you might have as well. So you know what? You're talking about the importance of connection, as we're doing here. Thank goodness for live broadcasts and replays as well. So if anyone happens to be watching the replay, feel free to pop your comments in the chat box as well, because Peter and I will be coming back and then answering or else sending you a direct message as well. And should you wish, please click on the bell icon in the top right of Peter's profile, Peter Black, and then you'll get all of his updates, or you can click on the bell icon on my profile as well, and you can get all of my updates and subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter, which might be helpful. Now, we have a few questions that we're going to be asking of each other, which I hope are going to be really helpful for you. I'll just let you know what the questions are so you know what to expect during this chat, because we are time limited as well. So Peter's going to ask me, how do I gain career clarity? What does it take to create a powerful personal brand for your career? And also, what must you include in your resume, that old bugbear, in order to get screened in? So some practical tips there. And then Peter's going to answer these questions. How to stop thinking like an employee and more like an intrapreneur. And that's he's going to give us a few really good tips on how you can actually safeguard your career by doing that. Then why your career should just be one part of your income and wealth strategy. Finance is so important. With Peter's background as a finance professional as well, ex-PwC, that's going to be valuable. And how do you realign your definition of success? Because what used to be successful before, what you'd consider to be successful before might be different now, to align with your own goals and values today. Okay, so I hope that those will be interesting for you. So do you want to kick it off, Peter?
I do, and I thought I might just start with the overarching question. Some of the stats that are now being put out are saying that someone entering the workforce now is going to have probably 5 careers and 17 or 18 jobs. So what do we mean by a career, Jane?
A career. Is it a career, or is it a vocation, or is it just a job, or is it just a means to an end? A lot of people work for many different reasons. Some it's really like a utilitarian reason, because you need to earn money in order to pay the bills, in order to have a life. For others, they may be working for more altruistic reasons, where they really want to make a difference in the community and they want their work to be meaningful and fulfilling as well. Some they work because they want the status and recognition that a job title may afford them. So depending on the individual, what a career is, or a career path can be quite different. For me, a career really, it's almost like the rich tapestry of life, because I've had so many career transitions in my life. And it wasn't until I turned 40 that I became a career coach. And that was when I hit the sweet spot and I thought, I'm home. And at that stage, that's where I got so much clarity. It was because I did a lot of self-reflection. I was going through a divorce at the time, a country move, one of my relatives had passed away, so had all of the major stresses, which made me think, I really need to reassess my life, my career, everything, and see what it is that I truly want to do. And so then I started doing something that was very meaningful and I know was helpful to other people. So I'm fulfilling my career anchor, which is dedication to a cause or service. When I found out what that was, that's when I realized that's my career path at the age of 40.
So you've touched on things like your personal goals, your values, your purpose, even things like your personality. So taking all those things into account, how do you gain that career clarity given what's going on in your life right now?
Mhm. The important thing is, first of all, is to take a step back and assess what is really driving you. And I actually have, I'd like to share, if you don't mind, a career clarity pack, which takes you through the different exercises that you can go through yourself. So just very briefly, let me share this. I'll share my screen and show you this. Here we go. Can you see that, the career clarity pack?
Yes.
Yeah. So in my career clarity pack, what I've got, if I go to this next slide, is I'd like people to take, first of all, in order to gain clarity, is take a life inventory and understand what's going on in your career, in your relationships, with your finances, with your health, and also your physical environment. Because if you assess what's satisfying and what's dissatisfying about those 5 aspects of your life, then you know where you're at. It's a bit like taking stock. Yes, it's like an audit of your life. And then identify what you're tolerating, do a values assessment, because values, if you make values-based decisions, then how can you possibly go wrong? Because if they're your top values, you know you're doing the right thing by yourself. But so many of us don't know what our values are. So conducting a values assessment is very useful. And then understanding what your work satisfiers are, what makes you happy and why, what makes you unhappy and why in a work situation. And that could be your boss, the job function, the physical environment, the industry, as well as the job title, and then identify what your preferred skills are, what you like doing, what you enjoy doing, and what you're really good at, and then find the sweet spot between what you're really good at and what you truly love. Because if you love it and you're good at it, that's an easy sell. Yeah. And then have a really good think, and this is where the one-on-one coaching helps, is to create a mission statement. I'll just stop sharing here. But a mission statement really is to project yourself into the future and think, what sort of legacy do you want to leave in your life and in your career? Because when you know what the end goal is, it's so much easier to set those steps one by one into place. So that's my brief response to career clarity.
And you raise a really good point about values. You and I have done a lot of career transition over the last 15 years or so. And when we say career transition, probably both personally, but more helping others with their career transitions. And one of the things I always used to say to clients coming in, they'd say, do you want to see my resume? And I'd say, well, yes, I do at some stage, but what happens if your resume is a history of jobs that you've not been suited for? I want to understand who you are. What drives you? Because your values are very much going to indicate whether you're going to be in conflict with the organisation, whether you're going to be stressed, or whether you're going to be aligned. And as they say, when you do something that you're loving, you never do another day's work in your life, and that comes down to values alignment. So I can only just emphasise the importance of understanding those personal values.
Yeah, and you know what? When you're really living your values, it doesn't feel like work. To be honest, I mean, this is part of our work, isn't it? You know, discussing careers. And whenever I'm coaching or delivering a training session or even creating programs, it doesn't feel like work. I get so energized because it's what I love to do, and I know it's making a difference. And so I think that's the sweet spot. That's the meaning of life, Peter.
We just like chatting to people, I think, is more what we say, Joe.
Yes, chatterbox, Peter.
So how do you once you've got your career clarity, you've got your values clarity, how do you create that powerful personal brand?
Okay. Personal branding, it's such a buzzword, and it's been a buzzword for several years now. And sometimes people think it's, it's that external picture of yourself that you present to the world, when really, if you want to think about your brand, again, you've got to internalize first of all. And there are 5 aspects to your image that you need to consider in order to build a personal brand. And first of all, the one aspect is your hidden image, and that's what's inside of you. It is, it's what drives you. It's the way that you were brought up. It's what your personal goals will be. It's whether you were first, second, or third born, whether you were the favorite child or not. This all forms part of who you are. And even, the social demographic you're from, or the culture that you're from, that creates a filter through which you view your world. So if you understand your hidden image and you understand yourself, that's where you have a really solid foundation for you to project your personal brand. The next part of the 5 aspects of image is the assumed image. What do people assume about you before they even meet you? What have you done in order to build your reputation? And that's part of your personal brand as well, because if other people say nice things about you or they recommend you, then that's great for your brand. But if what they see is not so positive, then they probably won't want to do business with you or work with you either. And so that the assumed image is important. The third bit is the visual image, which actually is quite easy because that's how you look when someone meets you online or in person. So that is your attire, the look on your face, your body language, whether you make eye contact, whether you look warm and friendly, and appropriate dressing is very important in a corporate setting as well. And then the experienced image is number 4, and that is, what is it like to be in your physical presence? Are you pleasant to be with? What's your tone of voice? Is it easy to develop rapport with you or not? Because, sometimes you meet someone and you just grate each other up the wrong way. And I know that happens with you, Peter, all the time. Just kidding. But you know what I mean? Because sometimes you meet someone and instantly you don't like them.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because being in their presence is a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe they're a bit combative or a bit negative, and nobody likes a negative Nelly. But this is like, when I'm in your presence, Peter, I always feel lifted up because you have so much energy and positivity and knowledge as well. And you're very generous with sharing. And I think that's what a true leader is. Now, the final part of your image is your proven image over time. Do you keep your promises? Enough said there. But if you manage all 5 aspects, then you have a solid foundation as to who you are as an individual, as a professional. And then you can start about thinking about the branding, personal branding side online with regard to your LinkedIn profile, other digital platforms that you may use as well, and what your messaging is. So that's how you can start to consider how to build a personal brand.
And one of the things I've seen in branding over the last 15 or 20 years, it started out as You Incorporated. And it probably sort of started out more as you had to have charisma, whereas it's changed now to more one of vulnerability and humility. One of the key skills that we can all develop better, and you and I, as well as all of our viewers, is things like active listening. And it does come back to what you talked about there, that reputation, that sort of long-term image. It's not your identity as such, because we all have what we call our identity, which is how we see ourselves. It's more, how do others see us? So you're covering a whole range of issues there, Jane, in terms of reputation, trust, humility, vulnerability, active listening. They're all part of your brand. As well as things like, executive presence and gravitas. There's some of the concepts that I'm sort of talking with clients about. How do you build that executive presence? How do you build that gravitas? How do you dress appropriately for, the circumstances? And one of the big changes I've seen over the last few years is, for particularly for males, is wearing a necktie. We don't see that many people wearing neckties now.
Or whether you're wearing Ugg boots when you're on a Zoom call.
Absolutely.
Nobody will know. But from waist up, of course, really quite appropriate. So that's
so we've got the career clarity, we've got the brand. We're now at a stage where we want to build a resume. What's the one key thing that you see should be in a resume?
Okay, so first of all, now resumes, and on the internet you can download 1,000,001 different resume templates, but the most important thing is to make your resume stand out. Too many people create a resume, and you've probably heard this before, but it's a list of ancient history, and that's not going to make your resume stand out if it looks like a job description, because a job description is what you were hired for, but it doesn't demonstrate how good you were and what you achieved in your career or in that particular role. So the number one thing to include into your resume are accomplishments, tangible accomplishments, and you identify them by thinking about what sort of problem or situation have you encountered at work that required you to take a specific action? What were the obstacles around those challenges or problems? And then what action did you take as an individual or as someone who led a team to do it? Because very often things are a team effort after all. And then what was the result? Is it a perceived benefit or a tangible benefit? Did you save time, save money, streamline a process? Did you leave something in a better position than before you taking action? If you have those results, percentage improvements or dollar improvements or perceived improvements, then that will help to demonstrate that you actually get stuff done and you add value within any role. Have enough of those that are relevant for the next role, and it's going to start to tick the boxes of any screener. So I would say there are so many more resume tips I can provide, but just today, if you don't do anything else, make sure you have results in your resume.
And if I can add to that, the resume is designed to get you an interview, and you are applying for a role into which you're going to be in for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. So those accomplishments, you made the comment, they were potentially ancient history. Those accomplishments have got to be relevant for the role that you're going for. So it's thinking about what's the role, what's the organizational issues, and how am I relevant for that role, and why is that accomplishment that I had in 2014 relevant to the job I'm going for in 2022? So it's thinking, and it sort of dovetails well into me talking about being more of an entrepreneur. You are actually thinking like a consultant, just about, to be thinking about your potential employer's issues and how you're the best value fit to solve that potential employer's issues.
Yeah, exactly right. Because you need to position yourself as a solution to your potential hiring manager's problems, the organization's problems, and exactly the same as a consultant would. A consultant comes in and solves the problems for an organization. So perfect segue here, Peter, into what I want to ask you. How do you stop thinking like an employee and start to think like an entrepreneur so that you can safeguard your career and make yourself really valuable?
I think the first comment that we should cover, Jane, is what is an entrepreneur? Most people have heard of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur obviously, runs a business, it takes all the risks, etc. An entrepreneur is someone who's an employee, so traditional employment type position, but thinks like an entrepreneur. And the way I describe it is, it's like you are running a business, you're running a one-person business of Jane Jackson, but you only have one client, which is your employer. So 100% of your income is coming from the one client. Now, that's quite risky. And you and I know that from running our own businesses, that we don't like to have 100% of our income coming from one client. So when you're in that employee position, it's thinking about, as you said, what's the solution I'm providing? What's the value I'm providing? How am I keeping myself relevant? Am I doing self-directed learning? Am I pitching ideas? Or am I being reactive? Am I just doing things that I'm told to do? Am I there just for the paycheck? Or am I actually there saying, what's the value I'm adding? And if I'm adding lots of value, my employer will recognize my value, and hopefully then I get my pay rises, my bonuses, my equity participation, because they see that I'm such a valuable part of their organization. So it is a mindset thing. I think the other comment I'd make here, one of the things that has come out of COVID is we're all now looking at what I'd call the portfolio life, or the portfolio career. And long term, I think we are all going to be in some form of gig economy. And we need to have a different mindset to be enabling us to sort of market ourselves, brand ourselves, position ourselves, keep ourselves relevant for a very, very quickly changing market. And that does require that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, that's such a good explanation, and it's so true. Actually, just to add to that is, if as an employee thinking as an entrepreneur, always think about how can I excel? How can I do more than just what they hired me for? Because if you just clock in and clock out, you're going to be one of the masses. But if you're the one who puts your hand up and say, hey, I've got an idea, or this is a solution to something that maybe no one else has thought of before, or what else can I do? And then expand your network. Networking is so important as well, entrepreneur and intrapreneur. So if you expand your network across the organization so that your name is known, and then that will enhance your personal brand too. So you see how all of this blends in very, very nicely together. Now, as an entrepreneur and you're working well, and you know, as you mentioned, you need to have multiple income streams. How could, why is it, let's ask you this, why should your career be only one part of your income and wealth strategy?
Well, the first one that might sound obvious is that if in your career, if you're not working, you're not earning. And so the importance of having passive income streams and thinking really long term. You and I have been around a lot longer than probably many of our viewers, and we're now at a stage where things like superannuation become more important. And superannuation is designed as a passive income stream in our later years. Now, even in earlier years before you can access your super, being able to have other income streams, whether it's share investments or property investments or gig economy type stuff. Gig economy is still working, but sometimes people are doing side hustles, selling goods on the internet or whatever. But it's you would never invest all of your superannuation in one particular company. But when we invest all of our time into our career and we don't save from our income, we don't invest from our income, we're taking a big risk, because as you and I both know, Jane, we've seen lots of people who've been retrenched at a time when they had big financial commitments, and it creates quite a big pressure for them.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's so hard. When I've worked with my clients who've gone through redundancy, they feel, first of all, they lose confidence. They start to panic because they think, oh, I'm never going to get another job. I'm too old to get another job. There have been so many changes. Who's going to hire me now? But actually, if you take away the money worry by organizing your finances well, knowing that your investments can keep you going, and hopefully a decent redundancy package as well for a certain period of time, then you start to have a bit more of a realistic outlook on what your opportunities will be moving forward too. And having multiple income streams is such a good idea, not only for employees, but people who are running businesses too. And I'm sure that there'll be some people who are running businesses who are listening. And if you've got some brilliant ideas for additional income streams, feel free to pop it in the chat box as well, because everyone would love to learn from you, and then we can have a bit of a chat about it.
And one of the changes we've seen the last few years is our sort of millennials and Generation Zs, who are our younger groups in the workforce, are now starting to take a lot more interest in their personal finances. We're seeing a lot more interest in micro investment platforms, share trading, property obviously is a vexed issue, cryptocurrency. None of this, by the way, is recommendations for any of it. It's more just asking the question, what are you doing to build income and wealth streams outside of your career and your employment income?
Yeah. Oh, it's so important. Then having a qualified financial advisor to assist you is good. On the other side, for business builders, for example, my book, Navigating Career Crossroads, this is an alternative income stream which continues to sell, so people can buy it online. But last year, one of my clients, they ordered 2,000 copies, which was a fantastic order. And last week, I just got another email when we went back to work, saying we'd like to order another 250. So that, I mean, that really is heartening to know that this, which I wrote in 2015 and then republished when COVID hit, and very nice that it's, you know, was a finalist in the Australian Career Book Awards, but that continues to sell. And then I have the Careers Academy, which is an online membership site through which I sell lots of online programs on how to write a resume, how to interview, leadership foundations, things like that. And that means that if I'm not physically delivering to a client, whether it's an individual client or a corporate client, my other programs and courses are still generating an income. So that's like having multiple income streams. It's a sensible way to think of it. You know, so now, Peter, moving on, you know, like people think of, you know, having, you know, great wealth or having a certain job title is their definition of success. Yes. Do you think you should realign your definition of success to your own goals and your own values now that we've gone through so much, you know, in the past 2 years, and things like the Great Resignation, you know, have been happening? People are starting to make a little bit of a shift and they're thinking about different things. So should people redefine their definition of success now?
I think they should. I think you're absolutely right. You know, great wealth is, and, you know, working 60 hours a week is not necessarily what people want. I think we've really come to appreciate the value of good health, the importance of social connections. The fact that we have not been able to travel overseas has meant that we've had to make our fun in other ways. And I think it is forcing people to have a realignment of, well, what's important to me. Do I want that, you know, corporate rat race? Yes, it's got, you know, a lot of benefits, and you know, I've been in it. I was in it for a long time, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. So there is a place for it, but it's actually being able to sort of sit and look at, say, each of your milestone birthdays. You talked about your 40th birthday. I often talk to people about, think about your next milestone birthday. What are you going to look back and say you want to have done? You know, we see people on the one hand think they're going to live to 100, but then we see, you know, sadly, people, you know, pass a lot earlier. So it's taking a bit of a no regrets. It's taking a proactive, purposeful approach to what's important in life to us. Where do we get our satisfaction? Where do we get our enjoyment? And it's often not the fancy cars or the big houses or the flash overseas trip. It's actually the fun of catching up with people. You know, we've got a park across the road from where we live. We've seen so many people over COVID reconnect at a very simple level. I am part of a dog group over there. You know, we take our dogs over each afternoon, and it's a really nice social context. And you know, we're daggily dressed. Our dogs are, you know, pooping, and we're picking up after them or whatever. But it's all part of the fun, and that's been far more valuable. So I think it is an opportunity for people to say, what's important to my well-being. Well-being is more than just physical health. It's obviously mental health, but it's things like occupational health, it's environmental health, it's spiritual health. There's some other things there, and I would encourage, you know, everyone to be just saying, what did I learn out of COVID, and what's important to me going forward, and be proactive about how I'm going to get it.
Yeah, it really is so important. Everyone that I've come in contact with, and the people that I've been coaching as well, have been seeking greater meaning. And when they say they want greater meaning and fulfillment, then I always like to ask, well, what does meaning and fulfillment mean to you? Because it's so different, you know, to everybody. I know certainly for me, my health is number one. I've had to realize that. It sounds a little bit selfish that number one is something for me, but if I don't have my good health, how can I look after my family? And, you know, the grandchildren that I love to babysit so much. And it's, family and friends, I think, are number one after your own good health. That's for my top values. And then, of course, number three is being able to really leave a positive legacy so that, when our days are over, we will be remembered fondly for having made a little bit of a difference. I mean, that's really important to me.
If you go back 20 years ago, when a guy called Martin Seligman wrote a book called Authentic Happiness, he talked about the 3 levels of happiness. The base level was what he called hedonic happiness, which is, I'll only be happy when I have that car or that house or that overseas trip. But it was like a sugar hit. He said the next level up was engaged happiness, where you're doing something where time just flows. But the most valuable sort of happiness and the highest level was what he called meaningful happiness. And the meaningful happiness was often when it wasn't about you, it was about others. And you talk about legacy. How have I made a difference to someone else? Even if it's being a social organizer, being the proactive social organizer to get people together, whether on Zoom or face-to-face or on WhatsApp, if you can make people laugh, if you can give people a sense of connection, a sense of inclusion, that can be so powerful for you and your mental health, let alone theirs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is why we are coaches, Peter.
Funny about that.
Yes, I mean, not only do we like to talk the hind leg off a donkey, but we also like to help people so much. And I mean, I can see it in your face, and I'm sure you can feel it from me, is that it is such a joy to be able to help people, to really make a difference and do it in the areas where we've got years of experience and expertise as well. There's something that I want to share with everyone who's listening, whether it's live or it is the replay, and that is something to help you to set your goals for 2022, because it's not just career goals. So let me just share this and show you what I've been working on with many of my clients. Can you see this 2020 goals?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So make your goals smart, of course, but many people already know SMART goals. We'll talk about SMART goals another time, but your work and career goals are important. So what are they for this year? Then what about your health and fitness goals? Physical health, mental health, emotional health. What are your goals for this year? If you're running a business, what are your business goals? And very important are your holiday goals, because we all need to take a break. And sometimes the holiday goals end up being something that we don't even plan enough in advance. Of course, these days, because of COVID, the holiday goals seem to be, a little bit fluid, and you might book and, then you have to cancel again. But, for example, my holiday goal this year is I really hope in September to go to the UK to meet up with my brother who lives in the US and all of my cousins whom I haven't seen for years. And, we're all getting a little bit longer in the tooth now. I mean, I'm turning 63 this year, and meeting up with family and important people in our lives is really paramount. So my holiday goals are very, very specific. By a certain date, I'm going to do so much. Business goals, of course, health and fitness goals, work and career goals. So if you're interested in this, go to janejacksoncoach.com. I'll put it in the comments, and you can just download it for free as well, if this will help you. I've got a whole lot of other things that may be useful, but you can find out if you go to my website.
Can I also just say, at the moment, Jane, I think a lot of people are really struggling with, how do I plan when I don't know what's happening next week, let alone next month or next year. One of the strategies I'm seeing many businesses adopt is effectively rolling 90-day forecasts and goals. So you might have what I'd call fuzzy goals for the whole year, but just focus on, what can I do in the next 90 days? And 90 days in a wave of COVID is quite a long period. So control what you can control in the short term, but back to your word for 2022, be flexible, because things will change. And I think we're seeing that in terms of, contingencies, in terms of holiday bookings and whatever. But work on 90 days, That way you can achieve something, feel like you're accomplishing something, but also staying flexible.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that with so many changes, as long as we are adaptable and we are flexible, then we can bend like a willow. When things do change, then I think that we will be successful in the end, and to set realistic timeframes for things too. And so now, if people want to find out more about you, Peter, tell us, where can they find you?
So LinkedIn, where they will have obviously seen me already, my website, peterblackcoaching.com. I think it's more about people saying, who's going to be their posse, who's going to help them get what they want to do. Hopefully what you and I have done today will have triggered some thinking in people. I think the bottom line I would be saying to everyone is, before you go and resign, the best opportunity may be where you are right now. But go back to, what are your goals? What are your values? What's important to you? It's maybe realigning, redesigning your life, and your career is just one part of it. The career should not be the whole thing.
Yes, and of course, Peter Black Coaching .com is where people can visit and find out more about you. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my newsletter, because I put out lots of career advice and tips quite regularly. And also you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Jane Jackson Cremorne, because I used to live in Cremorne and YouTube won't let me change my URL at the moment, which is quite frustrating, but never mind. But yes, go to janejacksoncoach.com and you can download my 2022 goals calendar, and also your SMART goals too. So thank you so much, Peter. It's been great chatting to you, and keep up your amazing work helping people in their careers, as I will do too. And I think this year is the year of collaboration. So fantastic. If you are watching the replay, do put #replay in the comments, and Peter and I will pop in and out and continue to answer questions. Okay, so thank you so much for watching today, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you, Jane, and Happy New Year to everyone.